Welcome back to ET with GOTB. Goals galore this weekend and plenty of drama to unpick in the WSL. So let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Welcome back to the latest episode. There is lots to run through, but before we get going, this is your weekly reminder to make sure you are subscribed wherever you watch or listen to this podcast and across our social media channels. We are at Girls on the Ball on pretty much everything. We're even trying the new things. We're not very good at the new things, but we're there. So, follow us. It could be interesting to see how we get used to them. Okay, Sophie, we had a full weekend of fixtures. We didn't get to as many as we did last weekend, which, I quite enjoyed last weekend, getting to so many.
I did too, but it was because more of them were put on the Sunday.
Yes, so we've got a weekend of those fixtures to get through in the WSL and the Championship. So we also have confirmed semi-finalists for the Subway League Cup. Nom nom. I feel like I have to do that every time. And we have the rearranged FA Cup fixtures to look forward to this week as well. As ever, we will run through the WSL games. You will then pick out a player that you want to highlight this week. You'll also pick out Sophie's highlight, which could be, a tactic or a lineup or a tweak or a passage of play or something you'd like to shine a Sophie spotlight on. Sophie's spotlight. I'm brainstorming as we go. Whatever takes your fancy. You'll then run us through our team of the week. And we will, of course, look at the results of the Barclays Championship as well, which continues to be exciting. I say it every week, but it's true. And we will also have a quick look ahead to this week and any other business. Okay, Barclays WSL, let's quickly run through the results. Aston Villa 2, Manchester City 4. Grant Alexandria on goal, Miedema with 2, Fowler and Park getting the goals there. Chelsea 1, Arsenal 0. Gura Wrighton with the penalty. Palace 2, Spurs 3. Stengel, Veerden 2 for England. And Holt on her debut as well. Leicester 2, Liverpool 1. Cayman, Goodwin and Smith with the goals. West Ham 2, Everton 0. Martinez and Asai with the goals there. And then Manchester United 3, Brighton 0. Toon, of course, Miyazawa and Bizet scoring the 3 goals. So the table looks like this. Chelsea are 7 points clear of their nearest rivals on 34 points. Manchester United are now in second on 27. City are in third on 25. And Arsenal are in fourth on 24. So it looks like all the excitement will come from the Champions League race, as those 3 have swapped places a few times lately. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Down the bottom, the gap has widened for Palace. They're still on 5 points, but Leicester are now 4 points clear in 11th on 9. Everton and Villa are both on 10 points. So I feel like league winner and relegation spot are kind of getting clearer and clearer as the weeks go on. Let's have a look through the fixtures. Our 3 key takeaways from each of these fixtures, which is really tricky to do sometimes. Aston Villa 2, Manchester City 4. My 3, these are bullet points and then we can expand. Miedema. Both defences look shaky. Bunny's back and City look like they have a bit more depth. So let's have a quick run through Miedema's performance.
It's great to see her back. She's looking, and I would say she's probably not even at her best yet, but she is looking like the striker that we all know and love in the league. And I was just reminded watching her on Saturday how lucky we are to have her still in the Barclays WSL. She is absolutely world class, and I think there have been many comments in recent years since the ACL about whether we'll ever see the same Viv Miedema again, or whether she's kind of, in the latter stages of her career, or, whether she can offer much to Manchester City. Yes, she can. She is absolutely phenomenal. When she gets her fitness back, when she can have a run of form, she is going to be a huge asset for Manchester City, wherever they play her on the pitch. Yes, I think she works well in the number 9, but I do think she also provides options when she drops a little bit deeper as well. So I think they can make that work when Bunny is back as well. We won't see her playing every game. I'm pretty sure of that. They need to look after her. And with the Champions League and latter stages of cup competitions as well coming up, they have to make sure that they kind of manage her loading so that she doesn't get hit by these injuries again. But I think from what we saw on Saturday, that second goal was absolutely phenomenal. It was like vintage Viv, absolutely perfect. And I think, she's absolute quality for this league, and hopefully she can find that kind of consistency that she's found for the first part of her WSL career.
Yeah, I think it's those moments of brilliance where it might be a pass or a vision or a run she makes. And that's when you know, like, I think you said it about Ella Toon, like form is temporary, class is permanent. They're those moments where you see the world-class player and it's just her body getting back to that level again for her to actually reach her peak again. So,
and also, I would say Arsenal are still absolutely bonkers.
Okay. But
How do you let a play like that go on a free?
Okay.
Just...
We know. But it also adds to City's depth as well, the fact that she's versatile, which I think really helps. Second point is about defences. One thing you don't do is pass Viv Meadham with the ball in your box if you are trying to defend
Three
against her.
times in the first 15 minutes. I mean, come on. Like, I know you want to be playing out from the back. I do understand it. But there was literally, I think it was to Viv 3 times in that first 15, 20 minutes. And then another one was straight to Jill Roord, who passed it to Viv, who then shot on goal. I mean, you're just asking for absolute trouble then. And you have to be able to... It's the same with all of these teams who are fighting to like be the best of the rest. You have to learn when to use the passing out from the back. And I understand it's the style that your managers want them to play in, but there's just needs to be a bit of adaptability so that once you pass it straight out to Viv Miedema once, you don't do it again for at least another 20 minutes. It was just pretty ridiculous. So yes, their defence looked shaky in that respect. I think a really big bonus for Aston Villa is that Lucy Parker came back onto the field in the second half. I think her partnership with Anna Patten has been absolutely key when she is fit, and she's just been hampered by injury. But if she can stay fit, they have a really good chance of building something quite special at the back there. For City, they look shaky. They really do, especially when they're stretched by pace. And I think you saw it, like Leah Alexandri, God love her, but she was absolutely done by Chastity Grant in that first goal. Done for speed, done for like timing and reading of the ball, and she just burst into that space behind her. I do think that Aston Villa let off a bit in terms of what was going really well for them. Maybe they tired out a bit, but I think when you get at City's defence, the other point I would make is Rachel Daly shadowed Yui Hasegawa like around the pitch when Aston Villa were out of possession, and I think teams are doing that more and more and more. And a lot of the play that, yes, City won the game, but they didn't get Hasegawa into the game, and that's got to be a worry for them. They've got to be figuring out more consistently how to play when people are marking Hasegawa out of the game.
Yes. We also saw the return of Bunny Shaw. Carolyn signed and got some time as well. We're just seeing a bit more depth for City, and I think that will help them get back on track.
It will. I do think they just look very top heavy though, so it's brilliant in attack if you're getting more depth back and getting injuries back. But I know they signed Rebecca Knack in the winter window, but they still look really light, especially without Alex Greenwood, who won't be back for a few months yet. But if there's another injury in that back line, what happens? They need to start being like thinking about that. And I mean, there's 2 days left of the transfer window. I'm not sure we'll see another defender in.
Get your checkbook out.
But I do think that they've bought all of these fascinating, like flamboyant attackers, and they do need to start thinking about that defensive side of the game.
Okay, well, that one always delivers. It's always a really fun fixture to go to. Okay, moving on to the derby that delivers, always. Chelsea 1, Arsenal 0. A pretty enjoyable fixture. Okay, my 3 key takeaways. Penalty, red card, and actually a tight fixture, which I think was good to see. Not one side dominating the other. But I do think it was quite an enjoyable fixture all round, pretty tight across the pitch. Chelsea, probably as expected, with more opportunities, more chances, but weren't particularly clinical. Same could be said for Arsenal. I think they struggled to convert the good positioning that they were getting up the pitch into quality opportunities, which they'll be frustrated with. I think maybe struggling to find Russo at times and that kind of thing. And I just felt a little bit disappointed that the way it was decided was a penalty, because I felt like it was either going to be a draw, which I think would have been a fair result, or some bit of magic from Myra Ramirez or from Alessia Russo or a Beth Mead or something. And there were moments, there was almost, but it did come down to a penalty, which when I saw it first, I thought it was a penalty. When I watched it back, don't think it's that controversial to give.
It's a penalty.
I appreciate Kim Little got her studs on the ball, but she still takes LJ's ankle while she does it.
Yeah, I think it's a stonewall penalty in my book. I think you can understand in real time why the referee gives it, for sure. I don't think there's... I know fans will always be like argue decisions, but I really don't think there's that much controversy. I don't even think if there was video assistance, the clear and obvious is not a clear and obvious error from the ref, I don't think. So that wouldn't be overturned in my book. The following red card for Katie McCabe.
I haven't got to that point yet.
Okay.
You're skipping ahead here. I've got my bullet points laid out.
I'm segueing.
Moving on to the red card. There was just a little bit of maybe that's why it felt controversial, because it all kind of happened in about 90 seconds.
I think it was the way that it happened. I think it was the way that, Lauren James breezed past Mariona, who was obviously probably tired at that point. Not probably the person that you expect to be tracking back in those positions as well. And having to mark LJ, who is ridiculous, and she'd just come on the pitch a few minutes before, so she's full of life and energy, and you're like, you've been on it for ages,
and
so
her
you're
ball
tired.
Control is so good.
It's so good.
It's so difficult to tackle her in
and
the box.
then the other thing that you probably wouldn't expect is Kim Little being back there trying to defend that, and
she looked a bit tired.
Yes, she looked a bit tired, but also she's not a natural defender. She can get stuck in, but you really want your centre back, one of your centre backs, making that challenge rather than your midfielder. I think so. Yeah, she was a bit out of position. She was just trying to recover for the team. So it kind of all in all, and then you have LJ, who is full of life, full of energy, back to full fitness as well, looking bright. And we know how much she loves the game at Stamford Bridge as well. So there was kind of no question who was winning those battles, I think.
I can understand the initial yellow card that Katie McCabe got. I wouldn't have an issue with it. I can understand a player oiling over a bit in that moment, dying minutes of a game. You've held on. You feel like a draw is at least a fair result. And to concede a penalty, which arguably you don't think is a penalty, in those moments, knowing Guro Reiten is an absolute penalty queen, you've probably gone and lost the match. I can understand that boiling over and that frustration. The reaction to the yellow card is what killed it, and is a bit exemplary of Katie McCabe's behaviour at times, which just makes you frustrated when it's something that can be arguably controlled. Like, I don't mind a meaty tackle, I don't mind players getting stuck in, but to get booked regularly for dissent is just frustrating, because whether it's yellow cards accumulating, or in this case an upgraded to a red card, you're missing key matches. And again, I don't even think that was that controversial. I think what's fascinating is the reaction to it, and the idea that this is something unique, that someone who's had give dissent, have dissent towards a referee is some sort of unique thing to Katie McCabe is a bit silly and unnecessary. Players do it, they shouldn't, but it happens all the time.
Dissent happens, and every player in the game does it, pretty much. And I think no controversy in the decision. I understand why she gave the red card. I do think that it could be as well be any player on that pitch that does it. It's not just Katie McCabe. I know she's a fiery
and she's under a spotlight.
And she's under spotlight, and everyone questions everything she does all the time. Every time she goes for a tackle or says something that people don't like, she is quite hauled up in front of the limelight and questioned about it. So she has that reputation about that. I'm pretty sure that's one of her first red cards in the game. She doesn't have many of them.
No.
And this is where I think the narrative is wrong with Katie McCabe. I do understand the tough challenges and the shithousery that she does sometimes, but she actually has a very good disciplinary record in terms of red cards.
Because she's so used to playing on yellows.
But I think that should be something that's said in her favour.
No, that doesn't fit the narrative. People don't want to know that, Sophie. Doesn't fit the narrative.
So I'm not going to go all in on Katie McCabe either. I think she needs to, especially in a leadership position, she needs to know how to control her emotions sometimes a bit more. But I think when you see it across the board more holistically and you zoom out of this game to her wider career, she actually manages her emotions pretty well.
Yeah, and, I think the kind of language used around, it's the same. LJ won the penalty. If that had been any other player, probably a different narrative. It'd have been any other player that got booked the way they did at the end, probably a different narrative. But people calling LJ a cheat for an obvious tackle in the box just because she celebrated a penalty, like every player does. People calling McCabe a thug because she was emotional at a referee and verbally used foul language, which I'm sorry is not again unique to Katie McCabe.
But she shouldn't do it.
No.
She will learn from it. She will definitely learn from it.
Will she learn from it? I hope she does.
I think she will. I think she will learn that in those situations with certain, responsibilities on her shoulders. She hasn't actually been in that situation before, so...
No, but she has missed important games for accumulation. And I think that's what frustrates people is you hope a player learns from it, and sometimes it doesn't feel like they do. So hopefully she will. But as you say, put those two things, or as I said, put those two things into any other fixture or any other team, I don't think it would have been blown up in the way that it has. But I feel like the London Derby always delivers. It did again. You know, if it's not like a one-sided affair and someone forgetting their socks, or, you know, it's a super close affair, or you're getting great goals, it always delivers, and I think it
it's
did.
Interesting. Renee Sliggers after the game said it was down to the small details on the pitch, but she did allude to the fact that there's a bigger challenge off the pitch in terms of the gap. It's going to be interesting to see how Arsenal respond over the next season, half of the season. They haven't done much in the transfer window. Obviously, there's been rumours about a left-back coming in, Nias Vonga from America coming in, but...
Isn't she American as well?
Yeah.
I'll see your American defender, and I'll try and raise you with another defender that maybe isn't the best defender in the world, but shut up.
But I think she's a really good talent, and I think she's got a lot of capabilities coming at left back. It might free up Katie McCabe to move forward as well. I think Katie McCabe has always done that left back position really well, but she isn't. Her natural, earlier in her career, she was a much more forward-thinking player, and maybe it's time for Arsenal and Ireland to start trying to utilise her in that respect.
Well, all in all, a great match. Chelsea, again, dominant, another win, another 3 points. They're in absolutely flying form, and I would argue out of touch at the top of the table at this point.
Yeah,
and well done on your 34,000 WSL record. Love to see it.
I'm sad I wasn't there.
Don't be. It absolutely pissed it down. I was soaked through.
I wouldn't have been in the rain though.
I need an opportunity to share this, please. I will get the photos up, and I hope they're worth it, because I got so wet. It was one of those games where it was raining by the time I got out, and it never stopped once. It just got heavier, it seemed, the whole way through the game. All of my kit was wet. All of me was wet. Everything I was wearing. I hope the photos were worth it. Okay, Palace 2, Spurs 3. 3 points to take away from this. Bethany England brace and making history. We'll delve into that a bit more. Palace, so close. Again, a 95th minute winner for Spurs from a debutant as well, just to really put the icing on the cake for them. And a tight fixture, but seeing more creativity from Spurs. So, Bethany England, a brace, and has now become the first player to score against all 19 teams that have ever been in the WSL.
Literally one of the most instinctive forwards out there, number 9s in the WSL, I think, and that's quite a record to have. She is absolutely superb, and her grit and her work rate and her ability to read the ball in the air and finish crosses and just know where to run, make those runs in. It doesn't come natural to any striker, every striker, that I can say that, but I think it comes naturally to her, and she will always give her all for the team. She's a brilliant leader for Spurs, and I do think she might be a dark horse for the Euro squad in the summer. I'll tell you why.
Wait, we're going to come back to this. If it happens, we're going to come back and I'm going to clip this up, and you're going to look so smart.
We don't have a striker of her profile in the England squad right now, a traditional number 9. We have
Ellen White kind of vibes.
Yeah, we have Alessia Russo, but she's a very different kind of striker, and she leads the line brilliantly. But I think when you need in games to change things up, if things aren't going your way, to have someone like Bethany England on the bench,
different,
someone who just knows how to nod in the goal. And instead of trying to maybe force Lauren Hemp into a number 9 role, I think she would be perfect in terms of, she not only brings experience, she was obviously at the World Cup as well. And yeah, I think she'd be perfect for that.
There you go. Got it for Palace, obviously putting in a good performance, getting back into the game. To lose it the way they did will be pretty devastating for them, because had they won that game, they would have drawn that game, I guess. They would have just kept them in touching distance, which I think is key when you're languishing down the bottom and a win can just get you back in touch. Just to be 4 points adrift now is a killer.
Palace work so hard in pretty much all of their games, even the games that they lose by bigger margins. But it just strikes me that this game, and I remember back to the game against Aston Villa where they did so well to get back into it, and then they just concede that time to the Ebony Salmon goal in the last minute. And this time, superb free kick. It was a superb free kick, but it was literally pretty much the last kick of the ball. And it's about that concentration piece. It's about learning how to deal with these experiences and stay switched on for the entire game. If you're going to drag yourself back from 2-0 down, you need to have that resilience to maybe keep it going till
bank up.
Yeah, the last 30 seconds of the game, not kind of switch off. And I know the miraculous can happen, but at the same time, there is a sort of pattern about the way that they concede goals.
Is it miraculous if it happens multiple times?
Well, no, I mean in terms of like it was a bloody good free kick.
No, I know, but you've given away a free kick in a bad position.
Yeah.
So
you need to be switched on, and it's a bit like that brilliant strike for Ebony Salmon. Like, take nothing away from the finish, it's absolute quality, but she was given way too much space in the build-up to be able to do what she does.
Yeah. So, as I touched on, Spurs looking a bit more creative, given the last game they won, they didn't have a shot on target.
I mean, it wasn't hard, was it?
This game, they had 12 shots and 6 on target, so definitely an improvement in terms of creativity, and I think for Bethany England to get a brace as well, just gives her a little bit more confidence. So when she's in those moments like she was last week where she hit the crossbar, it might just nestle in the back of the goal
instead. She's
joint
second in the goal scoring chance at the moment, which is pretty incredible. I also think back-to-back wins in the league is big for Spurs. They haven't been at their best this season, but they've got a real chance now to go for that 5th place. They've hauled themselves back within touching distance. Well, they are touching.
Actually, I thought Brighton were out of sight for Spurs, and actually now they're level on points, both on 17.
So,
I do think that 4th place is out of touch for both of them, but for Spurs to kind of drag themselves back up to Brighton and put a bit of distance between everyone below them is a good sign.
Best of the rest.
Leicester 2, Liverpool 1, 3 points. Promising performance from Leicester, 14 shots and 6 on target. Liverpool only managing to get a goal from a mistake. Not ideal, because they did create stuff. And a big win for Leicester, still on 11th, but making sure that the distance between them and Palace is 4 points. So, yeah, promising from Leicester. We'd seen a promising performance from them last week as well.
It's actually been, the last 3 or 4 games have been really good for them.
Yeah.
Who knows? They did that Chelsea draw, the 1-1. They won in the Cup, I think. And then, they had the performance last week. They didn't get the result, but they certainly performed. They had the chances. And this week, you worry for them because they keep conceding in the first 3 minutes. And poor Yanina Likes, I mean, once again, she scored the own goal last week. She basically passed it straight to Olivia Smith this week in the first 3 minutes. That's kind of, you're already like making it much harder for yourself, giving yourself a mountain to climb, especially when you aren't prolific goal scorers.
Yes. And
you don't have a number 9. So you're making it hard for themselves, but they dig in. They do have a really good defence, despite those silly conceding of the goals. They have the 5th meanest defence in the league still. I'm so proud of that, because when I asked Omandi Miguel just before Christmas, I think it was just before the Chelsea game or City game, and I was like, you have the 5th meanest defence in the league, is that something that you can build on, or is that the priority, like what you can take out of the first part of the season where it's been pretty troubled, but you have this really good defence? As she said, ask me again next week after the City game. I think they lost 3-0, 2-0. They still had the 5th meanest defence, and then they went to play Chelsea. They conceded 1 and drew the game, and like a month and a bit later, they still have the 5th meanest defence. So I was right.
Liverpool, we thought, started 2025 pretty well, and I actually expected more from them, I guess, in this game. I thought they would win it. But I mean, look, Sophie Roman-Hogue is back in contention. She was on the bench. She came on as a sub, which is a good sign, but I expected a little bit more. They did have quite a few opportunities and just couldn't score them.
I think Matt Beard will be so frustrated with the consistency of his team. He has the players. I think Liverpool is a football club. I mean, you could see what they did against Brighton last week. They really stretched their back line. They have the speed within the kind of the setup to be able to stretch teams and really challenge them. They're just not nearly consistent enough in terms of, scoring goals and then defending them at the back.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the game you were at, West Ham versus Everton. You've got some very muddy shoes there. 3 points. Improvement from West Ham after a difficult return to the WSL in 2025 against Chelsea. Shakira Martinez getting a goal. I believe that's her first goal.
Yeah.
And Everton, once again creating chances but not converting. They had 17 shots. None of them were on target, which just feels like a bit of a tale of their season. It's like I feel like Everton is a little bit like, I don't know, a sieve where they fix one problem but then another problem pops up, right? So they have been converting their chances in the earlier half of the season, and they were able to say, look, we are struggling with depth and, we've got players in positions they're not normally in, etc., etc. They've kind of started to address that, and now this leak over here is getting a bit worse, where they're having opportunities and not scoring them again.
I think, for them, it's kind of been a theme of the season, is not taking their chances. I think as soon as, I do feel for her, Katja Snoish, she hit the bar from about 5 yards out, and I think there was someone in the way, as the ball came in, there was a defender in the way, so it probably she misjudged it. But she was 5 yards from goal, and it was probably
May as well have been 5 years.
it was probably harder to hit the bar than it was to hit the actual target. So I do feel for her, and you kind of felt when that happened that things weren't going to go their way.
One of those days.
I think West Ham were really good. They were really mature in their performance. They got their goals. Martinez looks like a player, and her link up with Viv Asai as well, I think, is going to be crucial for them. Rianne Skinner said to me after the game that it's going to take Shakira a bit of time. She's come from the German league where she's been performing pretty well, but she said obviously the Barclays WSL is a different beast altogether, so we might see her form dip up and down a bit, but she does look like a really good quality signing. And I was actually really impressed by the way they did the second half, because we've seen West Ham fold from winning positions in second late on in games, and they didn't. They kept their strength, they kept the structure, they had chances on goal. Yes, Everton created more than them, but they kept them out and they remained pretty solid throughout.
And they're up to 8th now. You know, we've been talking about them in and around the relegation battle, and they've managed to drag themselves with a bit of space.
They're 6 points clear on Crystal Palace. So.
Yeah, and they're only a point behind Liverpool, so it's a good result for them. Right, Manchester United 3, Brighton 0. Pretty comfortable victory for United, which is quite different from the previous clash earlier on in the season, which was a bit of a game of two halves, and it ended a 1-1 draw. Are Brighton slipping a little bit from what we've expected of them, or have we just our expectations been raised too high? And a great display and deserved player of the match from Miyazawa, and lots of love from her teammates, which is very wholesome. You should go and watch Manchester United's Instagram. They put up a clip of a number of the girls kind of all huddled around watching her do her player of the match interview, and it was a very kind of wholesome moment because they were well chuffed for her. But yeah, pretty comfortable for United.
It was. They're in a good run of form at the moment. They look pretty decent, and they're getting the points done where they need to get the points won. I think it was a controlled performance. Taking the lead in the second minute always puts you on the front foot. Ellerton once more got to be pleased for her. That's 4-3 or something, or 5-3? 4-3.
4 and 5? I don't know. Lots of goals.
3, I think. Lots of goals. She's in form.
5 and 4.
And she's like the driving force of their attack, I think. But I do think a shout out for Celine Bouzet as well. I think she's been absolutely phenomenal.
Unbelievable goal.
Since brilliant goal, but also brilliant since moving from Tottenham. I think when she signed, I was like, how is she going to get into this side? And actually, she has proved me wrong, because she is outperforming pretty much everyone most weeks. Absolutely superb. In terms of Brighton, I worry for them, because I do think they can't, especially against the top teams, they can't seem to hold their shape or have that defensive side of the game that's needed. And I understand that Dario Vidicic wants them to play pretty possession-based attacking football, but I think you also need to learn to adapt. And I don't mean bank up, I don't mean go 5 at the back, but you need to learn how to get your experienced players on the ball and how not to make silly errors, and allow yourself to get a foothold in the game. I do think they seriously missed Fran Kirby.
Yeah, they did have chances.
They had chances. Nikita Paris hit over the bar or something. But yes, I'll also shout out Miyazawa later. So
yeah. Oh, well. Moving on to Player of the Week for Sophie. Tell me.
So I'm going to go with Hinata Miyazawa. I just think that it's been a long time coming. She had that obviously brilliant World Cup, and she was brought to Manchester United on the back of that performance. Probably need to see her more as an attacking midfielder, but she is now like in that kind of pivot with Dominique Janssen. So she's good in attack, obviously, but she's also showing a bit more of the defensive side of the game really well. And I think she's been the difference in United since the turn of the year. She's keeping her place as well, which she hasn't been able to do very regularly. And was it in the post-match that they described her as a little Modric?
Yes, mini Modric.
Mini Modric. So, I think she has so much ceiling to go to as well. I think it's super exciting that we get to see her starting to develop, and getting game time is so important for her.
Next up, Sophie's Spotlight moment.
I'm going to go with... I'm just going to go with Viv's second goal, because it was the turn and it was the finish. And I know Mary Fowler tried to outdo her a bit later on with that. But I do think the way that built up, the way that she took the game by the scruff of the neck and kind of put Manchester City back on the front foot, it was an absolutely delightful goal.
Yeah, it was one of those for me, making a noise out loud goal when I'm pitch side on my own with nobody around me. I know it's a good goal and I go, oh my God. So yeah, I agree with that. Very nice. All right, moving on to our team of the week. Please talk our listeners through it. Nice and quick. You get a sentence for each player.
Okay, so in goal was actually the hardest position this week.
And that's your one sentence. Moving on. No, I'm joking.
No, I haven't taken a breath yet. But now I have because he's interrupted me. But yeah, so I've gone Daphne van Domsler in goal purely because she was the goalkeeper who made the most saves this weekend. I think it was a weekend where they weren't tested all that much, goalkeepers, or they didn't have their chance.
Winning goalkeepers weren't tested that much.
But also, I mean, like, Tullis Joyce has 0 shots, 0 saves to make in that game. So you can't really justify that. So I think I just went with the goalkeeper who made the most saves in the game.
Fair.
Then I went at right back, I went with Manchester City's Kirsten Kasperai. Watched a 4th goal for them. She was absolutely crucial in that. Letizia at centre-back, I thought her passing was brilliant. Bjorn at centre-back for Chelsea as well. Thought she had a really good game, and especially there must be some serious pressure on her with Germa rocking up. So I think to put it in that kind of performance is superb. Gabby George, been absolutely brilliant all season, another good one. Hinata Miyazawa, of course, in the midfield. Actually, I've gone 4-4-2, so I'm going to go Chastity Grant out on the right.
Yeah.
Miyazawa in central midfield alongside Nuskin. Mm-hmm. I thought Nuskin was superb and crucial for Chelsea all the way through. Her and Cuthbert were, but I thought her work rate as well at the end. I remember watching the last 20 minutes and she was just getting into challenges everywhere, all over the pitch. So I thought that did it. Viv Asay for me on the left for West Ham really is an experienced driving force in that team. Bethany England up front, of course, making history, and her brace, and I mean, who else but Viv Miedema.
Very good.
Doesn't need explanation.
No, I don't think it does. All right, moving on to Barclays Championship. The results this week: Blackburn 1, Sunderland 1, Durham 1, Southampton 0, Birmingham 1, Bristol City 3, Charlton 3, Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 3, Portsmouth 2. It means the table looks like this. Birmingham are still on top on 23 points, despite the loss to Bristol, who are in second, also on 23 points, but an inferior goal difference just. We've got London City and Durham on 22 points, and in third and fourth respectively. Just below them on 21 points is both Charlton and Sunderland, which means Newcastle are just 4 points off the top in seventh. So it's safe to say it is definitely back to a 7-horse race for the title. Again.
Yeah, last week we said it was a 6-horse. Now it's
last
7.
week we're like, it's down to 6. We've lost a horse.
Southampton will be back in it next weekend.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay, so despite a close performance against Newcastle, Portsmouth continue to prop up the table on 2 points, with Sheffield above on 5.
Got to feel for Portsmouth. I mean, they're trying. They really, really are. And things are getting better in terms of scoring goals, but they just can't quite hold on to these kind of draws at the moment.
All right, any other business? We've got the Subway Cup semi-finals, Chelsea versus West Ham and Arsenal versus Manchester City. They are confirmed. We have got the rearranged FA Cup 5th round fixtures being played this week. We've got Everton versus Tottenham, Brighton versus Durham. If you're going to that game, look at Brighton's social media. They have changed the venue. You may need to rebuy your tickets tomorrow morning. Arsenal versus Bristol City and West Ham versus Liverpool. We've also got Natalia Arroyo taking charge of Aston Villa this week. Very exciting. I believe she was in the stands as well for the game against Manchester City, and I think we'll have seen a lot of positives from that.
And I think her time in Spain has only shown that she is quite an exciting prospect as a manager. I think it could be quite a good choice.
And another one younger than us. Brilliant. Of course, the big news that we all knew was coming because it was the most, not disappointing or kind of, what's the word, anticlimactic announcement. Although, to be fair, we were all surprised when she was wheeled out onto the pitch pre-match. But Germa, of course, was officially announced for a record fee of around £900,000 or $1.1 million.
Incredibly exciting to have her in this league.
I'm very excited just to get her see her play.
In the Barclays WSL.
We're so greedy and we're so lucky.
No, but you want your league to have some of the best talent in the world. And the Barclays WSL does do that year on year. Even when you start to worry that the NWSL is growing or whatever. It's
I don't worry, it's growing. It's good.
No. In terms of like attracting all the best talent.
Oh, sure.
I think the fact that we can still compete and that clubs like Chelsea are willing to put up a fee to be able to compete is important in terms of the future of the league as well.
There have been a couple of other signings which we have covered on our transfer tracker, which is on our website. So if you want to stay up to date with all the comings and goings, make sure you bookmark that page. We did say goodbye to Kanza Dali officially this week. She's off to San Diego Wave. Enjoy the weather. It's definitely going to be better than here, but you will be missed. Also, congratulations to Stoke City for beating Plymouth Argyle in the National League Cup semi-final. They have set up a final against Nottingham Forest on the 23rd of March at the Bescott Stadium. So if you're available and around, get yourself some tickets and go and see that. Coming up this week, we're going to Arsenal versus Brighton. No, we're going to Arsenal versus Bristol. Got Brighton on the brain tomorrow evening. We've also got a very special episode coming out on Thursday with a referee. So thank you to those of you who sent in some questions. We've managed to put a couple of them to her. So again, if you're subscribed, you won't miss it. We've got our Instagram live on Saturday because we have a Saturday off.
We do.
Really weird.
What are we going to do with ourselves?
I don't know. But it's also another weekend where we feel like we see less games because they're just not spread out. Yeah,
they're going to all be on the Sunday.
Great. Monday's going to be fun.
We're doing 2 on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Totally forgot about that. We're doing Brighton versus Palace, and then we're getting the other side of London to do Tottenham versus Manchester United. So,
yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's right. Sorry, I had a blip.
Yeah, I'm normally the one who has a blip because I don't know where I am tomorrow. But there will be plenty of action coming from us across our social media channels this week. So if you're following us at Girls on the Ball, you won't miss any of our coverage. Otherwise, we will be back again with our next episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball early next week.